You're watching Local 5 News at 10 in HD, home of WeAreIowa.com.
Disney animation movies have come a long way since the very first feature, Snow White, way back in 1937. Long before characters were animated with computers, real people modeled for illustrators to animate the movement.
Well, tonight, Elias Johnson caught up with one of Walt Disney's most famous fairies during a very special visit to Iowa.
There is something magical about bringing the world of make-believe to life. In the stories of Walt Disney, one character who lived a fairy tale life was Tinkerbell, a lovable, glowing sprite from Neverland whose beginning was just as real as the world we live in.
I took what they did and turned her into a character, but she had 50% of it already because of the way she was designed.
In 1953, after illustrators designed the iconic character, Margaret Carey was the real-life model animators used to mimic the movement for the 3.5-inch fairy.
The first scene that we are going to do is she lands on a mirror on Wendy's dresser, a hand mirror, and she's looking at herself, and then she's very happy, and then she realizes that her hips are too large.
63 years later, Margaret still proudly shares the scene that landed her the job working at Disney.
I met Walt Disney. He came over and chatted. I mean, he was the head of the studio for him. Well, where I had been working at Warner Brothers, you never saw one of them.
Her show business life in Hollywood began early, orphaned after losing her mother the day she was born.
I was adopted, and my new parents, who were lovely people, put me to work, which is what kids did in those days. And so I started in our gang comedies when I was 4.
And Carey will openly admit her upbringing was different than one would consider traditional.
Because I was brought up by 2 people who didn't realize that a child needed friends around, I worked. And I'm not complaining, because I can't compare it to anything. I'm really not good at keeping in touch with family.
I can spell on you if you don't mind.
1,600 miles away in Waukee, life continued for Carey's granddaughter Erin Dahl and her family, with plenty of reminders of who their grandma really was.
My dad left when I was 5, and we really didn't have much contact with him, and this is on my father's side, Grandma Tink is.
The bigger Erin's children grew, the more important it was to make sure her family's story was more than just a fairy tale.
I wanted my children to have a sense of where they came from, and I thought, you know, my grandfather was a producer. He did a show with the Three Stooges for 3 years. My uncle is an animator with Hanna-Barbera for 25 years. My grandmother was Tinkerbell. Like, this is a great story. They need to know that they came from these wonderful people that accomplished all these amazing things, which will really show them that they can be anything they want to be and do anything they want to do.
After making a few phone calls, the two were able to reconnect and together planned a trip so Margaret could meet her great-granddaughters for the very first time.
How are you? Do I look anything like you thought?
Yes.
I'm a little too tall to be Tinkerbell. Aren't they amazing? Those 2 little ones, aren't they amazing?
And these faces were all it took to give the overdue happy ending on what has been a pixie-dusted life.
Family is very important, and I love them all. I wish I knew everything about them, and bless them, they're good at keeping in touch with me.
Oh, what a great reunion. That was Elias Johnson reporting.
And Margaret says she still tap dances and teaches in Hollywood. But next time the kids want to head out to see her in California, maybe they'll hit up Disneyland.
Yeah,
sometimes.
that'd be fun. That's great. Awesome story.